feminine is going down to matter, but the spirit red, the phallic of mankind, is going up back to the heavens. And it's just Jacob's ladder. You know, Jack and the Beanstalk. Jack plants some seeds, climbs the beanstalk. There's a goose that lays a golden egg and a giant up in the heavens. Jacob, he's also planting seeds and looking after Laban's sheep and making sure that the cattle and the sheep of Laban are producing spotted and mottled and all sorts of different animals. And then he lays his head on the stone of scone, which is basically the sacrum. These 5 fused bones, that's the stone of scone. It's very big, it's triangular. Jacob lays his head on the stone of scone, sees a ladder with angels going up and down, and it's a 33-rung ladder. Jesus dies at 33, gets crucified up in Calvary, the cranium, Golgotha, the skull, because this is where you get crucified, at the optic thalamus. That's the golden eggs of Jack and the Beanstalk. And that's the place that Jacob, when he saw God face to face, he said, I've seen God face to face on top of the ladder. I struggled with an angel and I got my name changed to Israel. And I called that place Pineal. Pineal. It's all in the Bible. All light particles are either expressing the mother light principle or the father light principle. For example, if a particle is on the amplitude of the wave, it would be a true sphere. And as a true sphere, it would be either positive or negative. It might then appropriately be called a neutron. So a particle is called a neutron here. A particle which is spirally heading inward toward the apex of a vortex, in the process of becoming a sphere, might appropriately be called a proton. See this? That's a proton. That's a neutron. Because of its expressing the father light principle. Again, if it is moving spirally outward, it could appropriately be called an electron, because it would then be discharging in excess of its charge or expanding in excess of its contraction. Light rays, for example, leaving the sun are discharging the sun. They are also discharging themselves because they are expanding into greater volume. A light particle expands as it leaves the anode in an outward radial direction and contracts as it radially approaches the anode. The sunlight we feel on our bodies is not actual light from the sun. What actually is happening is that the sun is reproducing its own condition on the earth by extending the reproductions out through cold space into ever-enlarging wave fields until those reproductions begin to converge again toward our centre of gravity into even smaller wave fields. Gravitation is the positive electric principle, which exerts its pressures centripetally toward the maximum incandescent points of compression in every wave field. It is the father principle of nature, the integrating principle of uphill flow of energy, which forever balances its downhill flow. Radiation is the negative electric principle, which exerts its pressures centrifugally toward its wave field boundary planes of magnetic light. It is the mother principle of nature, the disintegrating principle of downhill flow of energy, which forever balances its uphill flow. So, Walter Russell, A New Concept of the Universe. Nature generates matter from rings into spheres by way of north-south poles and radiates spheres back into rings by the way of their equatorial east-west poles. In this manner, matter emerges from space to form moving bodies and is swallowed up by space to disappear into the stillness of their zero source. North-south poles balance and control the prolating of spheres, which nature needs for the forming of bodies and their division into pairs. They extend in opposite directions at angles of 90 degrees from wave axes to form poles of rotation for spherical body forms. They are the shafts of waves and all spheres which spin upon shafts. East-west poles balance and control the oblating of spheres, which nature no longer needs for its body forms. They extend on wave axes to equators of forming spheres. They are the rims of wheels which spin upon the north-south shafts. North-south poles control the division of equilibrium into two opposite conditions which occupy opposite sides of mutual equators. North-south poles divide the one condition into two against the resistance of east-west polarity, while east-west poles unite the two conditions into one against the resistance of north-south polarity and keep balance between opposite hemispheres and hemispheroids. Matter is born at zero planes of equal potential. Polarization builds it up to maturity at 90 degrees from zero planes. Depolarization then returns it to the zero of its birth. Hallelujah, because that explains the duality of universe which comes from the one. And it also explains the Trinity and the four poles: east-west, north-south. Astrology of the Old Testament, or Lost Word Regained. On page 16 it says, all things are governed by attraction and repulsion. All attraction and repulsion merge at one great centre, the great Father and Mother, Creator, God, the grand central Sun. It is said that Moses commanded, he that understandeth Genesis, let him not reveal it. Genesis should be revealed that we may have a true conception of the beauty of astrology. Genesis, not the beginning, but what Isis, the mother nature, generates or produces. Isis, the ruler of waters, the menstrual of all nature, which combined with air and heat generated all things. And the Spirit of God moved on the face of the waters, air in motion. And God said, let there be light, and there was light, heat, electricity, force, magnetism. And God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas. We have here a distinct account of the action of the elements, that by the air, fire, and water the earth was formed, and all things generated. Not only is this true of all vegetables on the earth, but of all animals, and also of man and every living thing. That the Bible used astrology is quite plain. They had the Urim, the Thummim, and the Ephod. Check out those words, and you will see the astrology in the Bible. You will even find accounts of relics and bones of the sainted ones performing miracles, just as the claim is today by priestcraft. Of these things I have but little to say. Science and study of natural laws and forces will eventually explain away all mystery, and astrology will again reign supreme as of old. For that which has been shall be. There is nothing so perfect as the movement of the sun and his government of our solar system under the great author of all things, Aum, omniscience, omnipresence, omnipotence, immortality. The law of the Lord is perfect, converting the soul. Remember, Kephra, Ra, the scarab, transforming the soul, S-O-L. Psalms 19 verse 7, the law of the Lord. The law is the tarot, the Torah. That the astronomical or astrological knowledge of the Egyptians taught this to Moses is evident as the ram Isis or Ramesses, Isis, Essenes, and the place of its keeping named in verse 37 of this 12th chapter of Exodus. Of this 12th chapter of Exodus.